hello, and welcome to Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and we're excited to greet you and invite you into our fine show this Wednesday, the last Wednesday of May 2023.
The last
Woohoo!
Wednesday of May, June. Half the year is over, almost.
After June, it'd be half.
Yeah, but still, we're to the June. We're to. If you get to 6, you're at half of 12.
Oh.
That's,
Well, I've been doing a lot of math work with a 15-year-old, so I'm a little confused.
that must be why you forgot to brush your hair.
No, I didn't. I didn't forget.
It's the other side. The other side is
I can't.
okay. Okay, but
Oh, it's so confusing when the mirror doesn't work.
that's Hollywood, baby. So we're so glad you're here today. Today we are talking about
Presencing the practice.
yes, presencing the practice, and I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about it. Because I really don't know what's gonna happen. And but I think it's such an important topic. I think it's such an important topic because that's what life is about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, what else do we need to do? Tell them what they've won, Gil.
Sign up. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Make sure that you type in your comments, questions, your part in the show, because your part in the show is a big part in the show. And make sure you have a good time and relax and have your cup of tea.
Right. And if you're out there, why don't you let us know you're there? Just, say hello in the chat. And why don't you tell us how you're feeling today? What's going on for you? Just one word or whatever you want. Just about how you're doing, how your day is. So let's get to the good news then. You have good news?
The good news. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Sorry, I can't see. Oh, there it is. So I found.
The good news is a segment that we do.
Because you want to talk about what we're doing first?
Well,
I
just started to do that when you interrupted me. So clearly that was my desire as I tried to cover for you looking for things.
Oh,
geez, Louise, it's really hard to be professional here with a non-pro.
With an amateur.
Gosh. Yeah. No, I think it's important that those that haven't heard us before know that the good news is really a segment we do to bring to light the good things that are going on in the world. Because we all know there's enough happening that we can turn on the news any time of the day to hear about. And I don't know where everyone is, but I know I live in the city of Oakland, California. And Lord knows you can't turn around without hearing, about a carjacking or a this or a that, and this in broad daylight and this in the nighttime. And, people talking about 4 of their cars got stolen from their house. And it's just a lot. So it's important to remember that there is balance, even though we can't always see it.
Okay. So, having said that, I just read and discovered that, in fact, as a planet, we are producing almost twice as much clean energy as we are fossil fuel energy.
Say more about that.
Well, we're doing a lot of wind and solar. In fact, solar is about to become the largest supplier of energy for the planet. We're now seriously researching. Europe is at least doing solar collection in space, collecting it, beaming it back to Earth to use it, and there's already in process farms of solar farms in the deserts, um, way far away from Europe. And they're sending the electricity over to Europe, and it's much more efficient in the sense that they can have the same number of panels and supply way more energy. And they're able to. There's one underground under the. I think it goes under the channel or something. What do you call it? Wire? That's not the right word, but anyway, cabling. And it's the longest cable in the world, but they're setting it up just to be able to handle the energy from Morocco that they're setting up. So I think it's fascinating.
That's amazing. That's fascinating. Great. It is.
I didn't really know that it seemed like we were, moving along in that way as a globe that quickly.
So yeah, I think in doing these good news stories, that's one of the things I think that has come up more than I realized, like you were saying, because hearing about all the areas and third world countries and different places that are doing things that are leading to the replenishing of animals, life, and fish, and the air quality, and all of those things, coupled with the bigger stories that we do hear about here, it's kind of amazing. I mean, it seems like it's really moving the right direction.
Well, I think there's there's an up-leveling. There's an up-leveling of consciousness in general, particularly around environment and how it affects our lives and how it affects the rest of the planet. So maybe there's something in there about being present to the practice somehow that's shifting things.
All right.
What about you? What you got?
I'm going to tell you, my story is about a man actually in Woodland, California. And he was 60. He's a 69-year-old man. He went into the bank and he noticed a guy talking to the teller that like had his shirt over his face, and he could tell that the guy was distressed, and he recognized him as a former neighbor. And he went over and stepped in and took the man outside, and the man had given the teller a note saying that he was robbing the bank and that he was armed with a bomb under his shirt. And the man took the man outside, and he just talked to him and asked him what was going on and what was wrong, and found out he didn't have a job, and the alleged bank robber said he didn't have anything to live for. He didn't have a job. He just wanted to go to prison, and there was nothing for him to do. And the man took him outside and gave him a hug, and he just started crying. And the police arrived to take him into custody, blah, blah, blah. But he wasn't armed or anything. But the bravery and the courage and the strength and the faith of this man to really be able to just walk up and handle the situation and know that he could change it, in essence, could bring about, that heart to heart moment where the guy really had a realization and he felt like somebody cared moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just amazing people doing those things.
Presencing the practice, bringing it forth into the present moment and actually believing that it can be of value.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing that I'm realizing and noticing, is that it's not easy for me to actually think some of this stuff works. Or let me rephrase that, to think it actually works. I intellectually think that it works. I believe that it works, but do I really believe that it works enough to put my life on the line for it? You know?
A good question.
Yeah, really
And a
interesting.
good question for everyone to contemplate. In the meantime, welcome, Linda. Good afternoon to you. Linda is feeling anticipation for a great day.
Okay.
That's a good thing to feel.
Yeah.
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 All right. I'll go there with you, Linda. And um, so, who I know there's more of you out there. And what we did, we asked, if you're joining us, just say a word about how you're feeling, what's going on with you for the day, just so we can know. And this is great because we can all hold each other to that. I like that. I like anticipation for a great day. It makes me excited.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So when we come back, we are going to talk about presencing the practice. I know often you hear the words practicing the presence. So we're going to talk about presencing the practice right here on New Thought Media Network.
Come on, everybody, sing with me. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. If you believe in you and me, sing yes, yes, yes. If you believe like I believe, we can make a better world. Listening to each other till every voice is heard. Singing yes, 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 yes. What is the thing if we found a way to end all poverty? So all could live with dignity from sea to shining sea. Oh, please say yes. Come on, everybody, sing with me. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. If you believe in you and me, sing yes, sing yes, sing yes.
And we are back. You are so tall and I am so short.
You are so small. It's because you got to adjust your camera. Okay. Well, everybody, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. We are excited to be here. This is Rockin the Love. And I have discovered the issue with my hair. I showered. That's the problem. It was great before I did that. So welcome back. We're talking about presencing the practice today. And I'd like to welcome Sherry Lynn, who's joined us. And I'm excited to just have a little discussion. Holding on to God's loving embrace.
Hi, Sherry Lynn. Welcome. All right. So practicing the presence. Let's just talk about what that means.
Presencing the practice or practicing the presence? Which one are we talking
Practicing
about?
the presence, just what I said.
Okay, just checking.
Okay.
Okay, what's it mean? It means knowing that exactly what Sherry Lynn said, holding on to God's loving embrace, knowing that spirit is present always. It's being in that space.
Okay.
What about you? What do you think it is?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's that yeah, practicing the presence in every moment, always knowing that God is right there with you. I mean, um I think it's practicing the presence in theory is really something that allows us to remain focused on God during everyday activities and chores and tasks um, and integrating spirit into into that into that aspect of our life, because I think many times we forget in the mundane things or in our to-do list that God is there too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think the other part of that is practicing the presence is that opportunity to in those mundane things practice the knowing that spirit is present. And then when you run into something that's out of the ordinary or that's very different, that practice of the presence allows you to be aware of the presence even in that thing that feels out of the ordinary or out of line with what you were expecting. And I think it gives us a grounding to be able to walk through whatever it is, whatever circumstance shows up, and know that the presence is there.
Yeah. Do you know where practicing the presence came from?
It was a good idea. I think I do, but you tell us.
Well, what do you think?
All I can think of is Joel Goldsmith.
Ah,
No, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. My producer says I'm wrong. Uh, well, I'm sorry. I guess I'll give up my $10,000 winning for today. What was it? Who was it? Where did it come from?
well, maybe your producer will say I'm wrong too, but I believe it's from a 17th century monk, Brother Lawrence. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Ding,
where
ding, 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 ding. Yeah, and what he did was in all of those mundane things, like he did a lot of cooking, and I don't know the whole story, but a lot of cooking and cleaning and all of those things. And whenever he was doing that, he integrated his conversations with God, and so that's how it became practicing the presence.
Aha. And Sherry Lynn says it's a book. Is that the Joel Goldsmith Practicing the Presence? Is that a book? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sherry Lynn. Thank you, producer Michael. There we are. So, although I was wrong, I was just wrong. So, oh my goodness.
So anyway, so yeah, I just thought that was fun to know, because I mean, it is a practice, and I remember when I was in training, practitioner training in school, and some assignment where we had to practice, make sure we were practicing the presence. And I remember doing it while I was cleaning dog poop out of our yard. And because, it was like pick the worst time you can kind of assignment to find God in the presence. And it became actually pretty joyous. It was kind of weird, but I mean, no, well, you know what I mean. But it became it wasn't about the thing anymore. It wasn't about because I wasn't stuck in my story. I had been transported to a different place.
Right. Right. You were practicing, yes, practicing that presence It doesn't matter what it looks like in front of you, that presence is there. And I think that's part of the key of that, is no matter where you are, there is the presence.
Yeah, and always being able to remember that, and to remember, um, yeah, that we're in the now moment, staying in the now moment, And so this is why we titled this show "Presencing the Practice," because it's really about how do you integrate and hold that space, right? Of For me anyway, that's what the title means to me. I don't know, maybe it means something else for you. We don't talk about this stuff beforehand. We just come up with a title and we go, ooh, yeah, that's good, and then we go away and then we come back so that we have fresh ideas for you also. Maybe you have another idea. Yeah.
I do, actually. I mean, for me, the idea of presencing the practice is going back to that place of actually bringing forward the practice that serves me, that allows me to walk in that space of knowing the presence. So, we're always practicing somehow. We're always practicing, and but if we're not taking time to do the things that really get us in touch with the presence and into that practice, then we're not doing it. And if we hit a place where we have to bring forth that practice to help us ground where we are, then that's presencing that practice to the situation to be able to be grounded in the moment.
Yes.
I feel like we're on improv.
No, Gil. I'm
Yes.
I'm just processing what you're saying. Yes, I mean I think that's true, and I think that that's similar actually to what Goldsmith says in his books. And I'm going to read you a little quote from that. But I want to welcome Wayne while we're out there, and Wayne is living his life like it's golden. And I would say that is truly practicing the presence. Mm-hmm. If you're living your life like it's golden, that you've got to be one with the one. So Joel Goldsmith's book, and I believe this one was Practicing the Presence, he says, the degree of spiritual consciousness which we attain can be measured by the extent to which we relinquish our dependence on the external world of form and place our faith and confidence in something greater than ourselves, in the infinite invisible, which can surmount any and every obstacle. It is an awareness of the grace of God.
Well, what's the reality of that? What's the reality of that when you walk into when you walk outside and your car is stolen? I mean, there's the form. The form is that my driveway is empty, and now how do I shift myself to another place? You know what I'm saying?
I do. And I think that's the practice. That's the practice. It's in some ways it's I mean, it's different for everybody, I would think. But for me, in those moments, if I'm standing there fully aware of what's missing, then I flip and I go to being fully aware of what's present, and how grateful I am that nobody was hurt, how grateful I am that I'm going to get a new car, how grateful I am, whatever it is, how grateful I am that everybody's healthy and it's okay. It's a car, yes, I might not be to work on time or something else may have been disrupted, and how quick we can go there. And believe me, I understand that not everyone should try this at home, because it takes a lot of practice. And people, I mean, I know there's a time when I would have been like, WTF? What, what the hell? What's she talking about? If my car's stolen, I'm pissed off. And I get that. And I'm not saying deny that, but for me, you know, I, I, f- at this particular stage of my life today, I move past like all of that a little quicker because I really want to get to the solution. And I know that that's going to take longer for me if I stay there. That's just me.
Well, I think that's where that's where we could, the opportunity to presence the practice, to bring into the moment the practice of knowing that God is all there is, knowing that love is happening, knowing that the universe is conspiring for our good, knowing all those things. Taking that practice of just taking a breath and allowing whatever to move through, those kinds of things. Thank you, Sherry, by the way, for all of your research on the Joel Goldsmith and Brother Lawrence books. I think we're gonna have to get you on staff as a researcher. So it's interesting because this really came up for me in the last couple of weeks. I was reading and preparing to speak, and this idea that am I creating a space of practice that allows me to trust in that presence, allows me to believe in that presence in a way that I guess for me I would describe as extraordinary. Because it seems to me the ordinary place for me to go is to know that Spirit is there, know that God is there, unless it doesn't quite fit into the natural laws or my understanding of the world, or you know what I mean? I mean, then I go, oh well, I'm not. I want to think that, but that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But I find it interesting because so much of your life and people's life in general, we are surrounded by um, religion or teachings. Whether you grew up going to a church, whether you whatever, and we've been surrounded by the concepts. I've been surrounded by the concepts my whole life, whether it was in the Catholic Church, with Jesus, who's the original, practicing the presence guy, I mean, but for real, he is the practicing the presence. He is in theory, the teacher that has shown us all, if you practice the presence, this too is yours. You have the kingdom within you. So from that to Buddhist and to Buddha and to all of that, and I totally forgot what I was going to say based on the events of Jesus.
Thank you, but let me just say a word about Jesus. I just use a quote from Ernest Holmes where he says clearly, Jesus was not the great exception; he was the great example.
Right.
And you, and you're describing that, we're saying, yeah, he was the one that figured it out and did it. And it wasn't that it was truly extraordinary. That's the ordinary standard.
Right.
But I tend to think that's the extraordinary standard, or many of us do.
Right. And I remembered what I was going to say,
Okay.
Because in that same way, this is really what we talked about having come back from Costa Rica. This is pura vida. In researching my talk that I did I talked about pura vida, which many of you may know that when someone's gone to Costa Rica, or the t-shirt says pura vida, everything says, if you tell someone you're going, they're like, pura vida. So I really was conscious of that, knowing that it means pure life in Spanish, but I was conscious of the way people used it in Costa Rica. And they really did use it to acknowledge God in every moment. And it was all different ways. It didn't matter, like, if they were serving you food, like, instead of saying, bon appetit, buen provecho, good eating, whatever it is we say in America, they'd put the food down, they'd be like, pura vida. And I felt like they were using it as an affirmation, like, the food is pure life is entering your body, kind of thing. Or, they use it if something's good. They use it if someone steals your car. They're like, pura vida, And so in every moment they come back to, it's pure life. It's God. It's God. It's God. It's God. And the whole country is so centered on that it shows up as their people. It shows up as their life, right?
Yeah, it shows up. It is that being totally present to the practice of knowing the presence, because in every moment they affirm that the presence is there. It's pure life. It's just life. Life is, and we say there's only one thing happening. That one thing is life. So it's just life happening.
Right. Right.
So that makes sense.
Right. Which, I mean, I equate
Not,
that to the Jesus thing.
right. It makes sense. It makes total sense. And I think it's impressive because it seems to be adopted by a culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the attitude is adopted into the culture. And I think, you could feel the attitude as our boat captain and his associate would jump from the sides of the boat and begin pushing it off the sandbar.
You can't say that and not tell them.
I'm just saying, though, that people, whatever was going on, they were fine. And
yeah. And what Gil's referring to is we literally did a Gilligan's Island thing. It was supposed to be a 1-hour boat trip that turned into a 2-hour boat trip that turned into a 3.5-hour boat trip because the water was low. And, they're like, sorry, it's going to be a little more time. But what was fascinating was when I say boat, I use the word very loosely. This wasn't a boat where you got up and walked around. If you got up, the boat would go sideways. So it was one of those like canoe-like boats, and it had 20 people at least.
Yeah, it was a big boat with single row seats down each side.
Right.
So somewhere.
And we were combined with some tourists and some locals, and this was just their normal thing. And in order to get to the town where there's cars, they had to take a boat, which is generally an hour boat ride. So this is people who work on one place and travel to another. We had kids on the boat that were coming home from school, and they'd hop off the boat and get out at their house. But the thing was, I mean, this is their only way of transportation to the bigger city with cars and things. And so we're in this boat and we're going and everything is fine. And then it's not fine. We hit mud. So all of a sudden, the boat driver would hop out and, somebody else in the boat pulled out their stick, clearly a local that had this experience before, and they're pushing on the sides and, and then at one point, 4 or 5 guys hopped out. And now, mind you, we've been going down this river and seeing beautiful iguanas and birds and crocodiles. And as the guys hop out of the boat, I look at Gil, who's usually the first out of the boat to help. And I'm like, he's like, I'm like, it's okay. Crocodiles is a good excuse, Let the people who know what they're doing do it, And they just would hop out, and it was like pura vida. Everybody laughed. We had a good time. They made jokes. There was nothing like. I mean, one lady in the front was like, "Am I going to be there by 4 o'clock? Because there's only one bus she can get on. There's only one bus that runs from there." And it was clear we weren't going to get there by 4, you know. And another girl on the boat with her dog taking it to the vet. But we got there, and we got there, and somebody was there, that was going to drive the woman, and the girl with the dog hopped on the back of a motorcycle and sped off, and our driver, who'd been waiting 3.5 hours for us, was there and happy. Nobody, it wasn't like, finally you're here. I mean, everybody, it was pura vida, so it is. That's the way it is. And it's like, truly, it's the acknowledgement that it's God's design, that God has orchestrated this, and this is the way it's supposed to look.
And so practicing knowing that, and as a culture, there's this practice of knowing that. And I think, so they're taught to be present to the practice all the time, to be present to the practice. And I think that's where you can presence the practice, is when you realize you can stand in that knowing in any situation. You can adjust any opinion or whatever you have about the situation to shift to the pura vida. It is what it is. Here we are, and what it is good, no matter how it looks.
So how do we presence the practice? How do we get to a place where we make that a normal part of our routine, and where we really invite God into our everyday moments? And I know most people who've done spiritual work, the first thing we go to is meditation, which is great. Meditation is fabulous, and all of that. And how do we go beyond that?
Well, I have to say that I've been reading and doing more meditation or doing some, because I realized I need to do it. So while some of us need to expand and do perhaps add to our repertoire, sometimes you just have to get the basics. Just the basics of stopping my mind, slowing it down, accepting, really being in an awareness of if there is perfection in everything, then everything can reveal its perfection, and that, so you have health and you have abundance and you have all these things we talk about, but that I don't always quite grab onto, like, oh, you have a hurt whatever, so you're going to need a this, instead of, oh, here's your whatever is hurt, and so now we're just going to let it reset itself, knowing that it knows what to do. That's kind of the thing I'm playing with right now, is that reality, because I have the feeling that there's a lot more in that I can be hanging on to. There's a lot more I can do. There's a lot more I can be than I'm not being.
And I agree with that.
Oh, that I need to do a lot more?
I absolutely agree with that. No, I agree with that. And I feel like there's a step before that,
Okay.
And I feel like there's a step after that, and and I feel like that's a nuance of what we're talking about. But I think really settling in and presencing the practice, And I'm going to share a quote actually from Buddha. Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the moment, which is what we do in meditation, right?
Right. Can I throw something in there? Because that quote, you put the quote back up. Um, I just saw something that said depression is dealing with the past, anxiety is dealing with the future, and being in the present moment is where we escape all of that, if you will. But anyway, I find it fascinating because it's, you know, it's just a little more description of what's happening when you do what Buddha says don't do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but I think we begin really by, finding the presence in the mundane, like really focusing on on finding the presence in places that you have it. Like maybe it's traffic. If you drive a lot, if that makes you crazy, maybe it's traffic. Like really being able to start there and, um, you know, find that task. Maybe, everyday tasks, things like washing the dishes, things like cleaning the bathroom, cleaning the toilet. Like how are you in those moments? And then really watching yourself and seeing what emotions come up and what's brought forth. And then being with it and figuring out for feeling into how would each task feel, how would it transform, how would it be different if you could feel God in each one. And it could be a relationship, it could be, you know a task, like I said, but really, and then really begin to create the practice, um, and I know that Brother Lawrence, something I read, said like that during these times he would, make it his conversation with God. And it reminded me of you back in the day when we were dating, walking down the street, when you stopped and went, "What the hell am I doing here?" And had a conversation with God. And I knew you weren't talking to me. And
Mhm.
we just kept moving. But it's like really bringing in those, having, even just having a conversation with God in those moments. And if that's where you are, even if it's, what the hell is going on, God? Why don't I have a job? Or why don't I have money? Or why, whatever your whys are, and really, and then being able to integrate the goodness of God into those moments. And I actually found a worksheet when I was doing research, um, on a site. I'm going to give a shout out to, actually, I don't know if it's on this site, but I know it came from this site, spirituallyhungry.com, which I think is a Christian thing, but they actually have a worksheet, on, integrating and creating the practicing the presence plan, and staying focused on God, and some helpful questions, um, and and then figuring out really, where, even if you just start by, making a time one time to do this during the day, and then increase it throughout the day. I think for me, what I notice is, I don't remember when I started doing this, but what I notice is I do it all the time now. Not all the time, not as in all the time, but I do it a lot of the time, and I notice, I mean, because I witness myself a lot, and I'm like, huh, interesting. I just, I didn't know I would react like that. So, there's all different roads to,
So what is it that you notice you're doing? What's from the worksheet? I missed that.
I didn't say I was doing anything from the worksheet. I
Oh, I
said
thought.
there was a good worksheet there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay.
It's all right. Thanks for coming. So it's a journey. I know that God is in this moment too, as the face of Reverend Gil.
Not everybody can get on the train.
Oh, okay. Um, all right. So, do you want to add anything to that about
Oh, just I'm
steps?
I'm just fascinated. I think the whole practice idea, um, I think is the thing that allows me to show up with confidence somewhere. So when I can become presence to my practice, then I'm not attached to what the outcomes are. I'm not attached to some of the other things. And so then I can just be in that moment. I can just be in that process. Um, and that's a really important part. I have a little quote here from Michael Beckwith from Agape, from Spiritual Liberation. It says, "I go forth and joyously play my part without attachment to the fruits of my actions." And I say that because, that's the idea of having present our practice. And so we're not trying to get something, we're trying to be true to what's coming forth. Right. And so then we're not attached to what comes out of it and what it looks like. We're attached to being true to spirit somehow in whatever the situation is. Whether it's, I mean, that guy couldn't have been attached to the outcome with the bank robber. He had to be completely open to what could happen by walking up, talking to him, inviting him outside and giving him a hug. That's what he wanted that situation, but if he had been attached to it, he would have been too afraid to go into the situation.
Well, but I'm going to go a step further because I agree with what you're saying, even though I don't think I agree.
Okay.
Because I think what I think is, I think he was in the moment. And that's the key to all of this thing called life. I think he was in the moment. I don't think he thought, oh, if I go over and talk to him, it'll get better. I think in the moment he reacted based on that. He could tell there was something stressful happening and something moved him to go over and to do what he did. And I think it's when we are out of the moment, when we start to think about what ifs, that we get stopped and actually.
But that's what the practice is.
Exactly.
It's to be in the moment. So when we presence that practice to every situation, then we go there.
And Thich Nhat Hanh says, live the actual moment. Only this actual moment is life.
Whew.
Yeah. And that's what we say. There's only this moment. So what I said 30 seconds ago, it's not the now.
It's totally irrelevant.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, this is fun.
He's twisted, folks.
It's blown holes in all of my arguments, though. But you said it makes you right. You realize that, don't you?
That moment was right. That moment will live forever. Yeah, but it's true. Oh, good. Sherry says this is a discussion. This discussion is great and right on time for her. Great. I'm glad. And because I really think no matter how far we are in our spiritual journey, that there really, the more we can incorporate coming back to presencing the practice of knowing, the practice of trusting that that God is right here. And we as practitioners and ministers and, and people in spiritual centers, you hear it all the time. And how do we take it out? How does it live? So the assignment, if you choose to accept it, is to really watch that this week and to really be in that place of noticing where you can invite spirit in more, where you know, may put spirit off to the side a little, you know. And believe me, I'm not putting down the process, because there's sometimes when we need to just bitch and moan and feel our feelings and have our process, you know. So it's all good. It's just finding the balance and integrating it based on what you want to create in your life. And Sherry is pulling out her book on Joel Goldsmith and Brother Lawrence. So she will be guesting with us next month to continue the conversation. And we're so happy to have her ready to come. So, yes, we will continue this. And it's a great week for us, right? We're going to see each other again.
Tomorrow.
He's getting on a plane coming to Oakland. So we're going to have a mini get together.
Yeah, we're gonna have a middle school graduation, and woo, it's gonna be a party.
That's right. That's right. You know what that means, folks? That means the kids are moving towards 18 and they're still alive. So we're doing our job, finding the God in them in every moment.
It's true.
It's true. Such a journey.
And
So
that's
anyway,
part of what's brought this up in my head, just FYI, this thinking, really.
yeah, living.
It's working.
Oh yeah, living with teenagers, I can make you bring up the presence and question it often. Yeah, believe me, I got one here too. So we're very excited for that. In the meantime, this week, just watch yourself and just invite spirit in. You know, there may be a conversation that spirit's wanting to have with you. So open up and see what happens.
Be in the present moment.
Be in the present moment. All right, everybody. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Sherry Lynn. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, all of you that aren't speaking, but we know you're out there. And thank you to Michael Mangus, our producer, who is right on time always. So we love you, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Keep rocking the love, y'all.